Thanks, you guys. Good morning. Welcome to Friends Church. Can we go back before we judge ourselves as separate? When you walk through your world right now, does it feel like there's a lot of separate? Us, them. We're this group, they're that group. We're right, they're wrong. As I walk through my life, it's kind of like, it feels like maybe that volume has been turned up lately. Or maybe still. I live in this area, so I was driving up to Chinook. Renovations involve many, many trips to Home Depot in the same day. It's just how I roll. They know me by first name there, it's fine. As I'm driving in, I'm taking a corner, there's an overpass to the mall. There's a bunch of people outside protesting. Big sign, pro-life. And you know that there's a board with pictures of fetuses. We've all seen this, because there's another group on the other side that's pro-choice. And they're yelling, and it's back and forth, right? And as I'm driving by, I'm thinking to myself, is there just two options here? On the one hand, pro-life. On the other hand, pro-choice. And that's it? Like, can you be pro-life-ish? If I went out with a sign that said I'm pro-choice, but sometimes I'm pro-life, depending on this kind of situation, do they let me go and put my... I've always been fascinated by this idea of viability. If you know Roe versus Wade, you know the big thing that got overturned. If you read the legislation, the policy, and the following policies, one of the things they're trying to figure out is, when is a fetus get a certain amount of rights? So they created this 3-chunk system for what they called viability. First trimester, there's a reason you don't say when you're pregnant, we're pregnant, until you get to the end of the first trimester. Because it's really dicey in that section. Middle trimester, things get a little bit more obvious. And so the way they created the legislation is, first trimester, they said abortion's okay. Second trimester, we might be able to do an abortion, but there's a lot more rules involved. And third, unless we're doing triage, which means someone's life's at risk, we don't really do it here. That's always made a kind of sense to me. And I just want to make sure I'm clear here. I am not trying to convince you of anything. What I'm trying to say is, when I see the signs, pro-life, pro-choice, I'm like, is it really that simple? Viability seems to play a role, is somehow the second a sperm hits the egg, and if you're old school Catholic, don't put up your hand, but if you're old school Catholic, and I don't know how this works, so come talk to me after. Old school Catholics, if the sperm has left the body, it's considered like life. So for old school Catholics, it's like, that's why you can't masturbate, because, well, if you're a guy, you can't masturbate, because that's the same thing. But most of us would say, well, we're waiting for the sperm to hit an egg. So we're kind of like, okay, here. Somehow this becomes life and death, pro-choice, pro-life. But yet viability puts it over here someplace. Is this an easy topic for anybody? I thought viability, I was like, okay, first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. Yeah, I get that. I was reading an article the other day. A lady named Michelle, 2020. She's pregnant during the pandemic, or just before the pandemic, and she has the worst case scenario for any pregnant woman. She goes into labor at 21 weeks, 1 day. For those of you who aren't math people, 40 weeks is full gestation. She's a hair over half. Back in the 40s, when my mom was born, my mom was an identical twin, they were born premature, 4 weeks premature. They spent a month in the hospital, just about didn't make it. 4 weeks. This, Michelle, is now 19, just under 19 weeks early. No one has ever survived this. Michelle says to the doctors, please, please, please fight for my children. The way it works is, if you give birth to babies that are that young, and it was twins, if you give birth to babies that young, they deliver the babies, they wrap them up, and they put them on the mom's chest. And they let the mom say goodbye. She said, no, I want you to fight for my kids. One of them didn't make it. The doctors have said to her, like, look, this is the reality. But Curtis, for whatever reason, doctors don't understand, he didn't fade. 275 days in the hospital. He finally went home. Born 21 weeks in 1 day. I thought I understood viability. Suddenly, the viability conversation, I realize it's not static either. Even if I think viability is important in this conversation, that number went from 36 weeks from my mom to 21 weeks in 1 day for Curtis. They don't know what his quality of life is going to be. No one's ever been born this early before. I'm sure there will be many papers written on him. But he lived. What does that do to this conversation? Does anyone's brain feel like it's cramping a little bit? I read the other day they're working on synthetic wombs. At some point, their goal is they will take a fertilized egg out of a person, drop it into a machine, turn on the button, 9 months later, they have a baby. No human involvement whatsoever. What does viability look like when they can do that? From my mom's time to this time, massive shifts. What's it going to look like in the next couple decades? And all I get is pro-life and pro-choice? How about, sweet Jesus, this is complex. Can I have that sign? I have no freaking clue. If your brain is going, Vince, how dare you talk about this subject today? This is way too difficult. Yes, it is. It's hard. I picked one because it's hard. I picked one because this is the spiritual gym. I picked one because sometimes somebody will sit in front of me and say, my mom contemplated aborting me. I wouldn't be here if she did. And my heart breaks. I read a story where a mother, I don't exactly know the technical terms, something happened with the pregnancy. Normally they would abort the fetus to save the mother. They didn't, because it was against the rules. 3 days later, she died of infection, the mother. And I go, that can't be right either. If you're going, this is too complex, yes. Then why the heck are there signs that just say pro-life, pro-choice? I picked it because when I wrestle with it, my brain wants to cramp. But I look around and I see this fundamentally, the issue is framed as it's either your one camp or the other. 2 years ago, Pew did a study. They're a research group. They did a study of people. 8% of people said, oh boy, 8% of people said, there should never, ever, ever be an abortion. Doesn't matter if you lose the mother. Doesn't matter if it's a triage situation. Doesn't matter. 17% said abortion should happen no matter what. That's 27% of people said it's black or it's white. 73% are like me. I'm pro-life-ish, but kind of pro-choice too, but I'm not too sure. Can viabilities fit in there somehow? Can you throw up the quote for me, Nathaniel? I read this quote this week. For every complex problem, there's an answer that's clear, simple, and wrong. Why do we do this? Why do we take incredibly complex things? I hear it all the time. People are like, I'm divorced. When I was going through divorce, the odd, I was going to say jackass, but am I allowed to say that on stage? Yeah. The odd jackass would say to me, all you need to do is this. And I'm like, really? 10 years of life together, I don't know how many hurts and resentments. That's going to fix it? Really? Homelessness, poverty, racism, the economy. If you think there's a simple solution, chances are it's wrong. Oh, man. I was trying to blame this on social media. I really was. And I was reading through the Bible, and I read this section from an older story, quite ancient story. So this is like Jesus' time. Let's rewind maybe a number of hundreds of years, maybe not 1,000. There's a king named Saul, first king. He's the king. He's the first time the nation's ever had a king, so it's the first time someone has been elevated to this position. He's kind of like, he won the lottery. He's now the boss of everybody. And he's got this buddy named David. You might have heard he's a king later on, but for now he's just a little kid, snot nose, good looking. Saul's feeling pretty good. I got the world by the tail. I got David on my back. He's my buddy. Kings don't go to war in this era, so he stays at home, and he has this war, and he sends David out to fight the war for Saul. I'm sending in my buddy David. He's the ringer. He'll take care of things. Everything was fine until David came home. And as he was walking in, all the women, and I have a feeling he was straight, all the women said, Saul killed his thousands, but David his 10,000s. Saul, who had a friend named David, didn't nuance it. Didn't say, you know what, I like the guy, but I'm a little jealous right now. I'm not going to lie to you. There wasn't a sense of, like, okay, well, he did it for me, so like we're a team together. No. Here's what he does. Black and whites it. You were my friend a minute ago. Now you're my enemy. Black or white. We've been doing this as long as we have written records. I always prefer to blame social media. So what do we do? It'd be nice if I kept it here in the big issues, because we can kind of think about them and be like, oh yeah, that's really tough. Sometimes we live in those issues. For those here who've had abortions, you've wrestled through this. This is a real issue for you. But here's the deal. Black and white thinking doesn't just live in the big issues. It lives in every part of our life. Let me show you. Nathan, can you put up the next, or that line for me? The first one. I'm either successful or a total loser, King Saul. Anyone have a black and white way of thinking about themselves? Next one for me. Either they love me or they hate me. There's no like, they kind of like me or they're a little annoyed with me, but they secretly love me. No, they either love me or they hate me. Next one. Either I'm rich or I'm poor. Next one. My friend doesn't call me back. They don't like me. Not they were busy, not, a million other excuses. It's black or white. Next one for me. If I don't get promoted, I'm bad at my job. Next one. If I mess this up, I'm not capable of doing anything right. Next one. My coworker was short with me today, so they must not like me. Can you see the black and whiteness of this? And yet when it's in my mind, it doesn't feel like black and white. But it's the same thing. Are you in this camp? Are you in this camp? Nothing in between. Next one for me, Nathaniel. My friend canceled their plans, so they must be avoiding me. Next one. There's no point in doing it if I can't do it perfectly. Ouch. So I've been doing renovations. I have this tiling that I did on the floor. There's like 3 tiles about a foot in front of where I can see when I'm sitting on the toilet. They're right there. Guess what I do the entire time I'm sitting on the toilet? There's like 6,000 tiles in that stupid room. That's what I'm paying attention to. Ouch. Next one. Oh, I lost my temper with the kids. I'm a terrible parent. Ooh. Next one. I didn't get the job. I'm unemployable. Next one. I have nothing interested in saying. I could just keep going. Don't put up your hand, but how many of us have black and white thinking inside? How we talk to ourselves. I'm either worthy or I'm unworthy. Lovable, unlovable. That tile is either perfect or damn it, it is not perfect. This isn't an issue of the world out there, just. I think this is inside of us. I was sitting with this. Why is it that our brains talk to us this way? Like, if I'm honest, I could sit on the toilet and look at the 6,000 less 3 other tiles. They're all beautiful. And I could be like, wow, I did a great job in here. But no. My brain wants me to pay attention to the 3 in front of me. Why? Why is your brain telling you the thing it's telling you? You can clean your house and 99% of it's perfect and 1% isn't. You can hang out with a friend and for 20 times you can go for coffee and it's perfect every time. And the one time they want to reschedule, you're like, why? Wouldn't it be valuable if we could figure that out? This series is based on this conception called thinking errors. Ways that our brain think that are not true, not helpful, not real. Now, the series before this, the hijack series, can you throw it up for me, Nathaniel? We had talked through this metaphor of parts, looking at our inner life through parts. If you don't know this language, go back and listen to the series. I don't have enough time to talk through it all here. But there's a series of parts inside of us, or the metaphor says, that are trying to protect us. And I wondered, what if those parts speak through thinking errors? Can you throw the next quote up for me? I saw this from a group. We found that thought patterns like black and white thinking errors, can be the very first way parts present for some clients. It can be a valid starting point for doing deeper work. If we're being hijacked, if the hijack is hurting us and hurting the people around us and hurting our world, then maybe we could figure out the part that's hijacking us. But me just saying, what are your protector parts? You say to me, what are you talking about, Clausen? This makes no sense. If I say, what part of you thinks in black and white? I think what we do is go, oh yeah. My renovation part thinks in black and white. Sometimes I can't even start a project until I can figure out how to do it perfectly. So, if black and white thinking is a way to figure out our protector parts that are hijacking us and causing our life to be painful and difficult and we're ruining relationships and all that stuff, if that's the case, then we can look at this black and white thinking and use it to go backwards and figure out, oh, that's what's going on. And when we can heal that, something shifts inside of us. That's what this series is about, and that's what I want to try and do now. So here's my thinking. What if our protector parts that are using black and white thinking are trying to pay attention to our energy levels? Can you throw that line up for me? Isn't it easier to say, I'm pro-life or I'm pro-choice? Isn't that just easier? If my brain wants to pay attention to how much energy I'm putting out, if that's the protector part that's going, look, you don't have enough. My mom was like this always. Me and her fought about this all the time. She's like, Vince, take a nap. And I was like, why would I? I'm 14. I have nothing but energy. But she had some horrible experiences growing up, and so energy was always important to her. But doing the work of saying, I'm pro-life-ish, but I'm also pro-choice-ish, and kind of here's how I do it, but it's evolving as science changes and as I change, that work is really hard. What if the protector part is saying black and white in order to save us from all that work? I can do it a million ways. I'm conservative, I'm liberal. Is anyone perfectly either of those things? Perfectly. I'm good, I'm bad. It's easier, though, to say, like, oh, I'm conservative. Well, do you want to nuance that a little bit? No, it's too much work. What if that protector part is paying attention to your energy levels? And try this. If some of that resonates with you, if you're like, yeah, I just like to be like, yeah, that's who I am, that's easier. Say to that part in your mind right now, thank you for paying attention to my energy levels. Can you feel it shift a little bit? Next part that I think uses black and white thinking. Can you throw it for me, Nathaniel? Focused on control and power. Oh, this one's painful. Me and my wife were having a discussion the other day. It's around whether or not she owes me an apology. Don't worry, folks. I remember what happened. She owes me an apology. Black and white thinking much, Clausen? You've read all the books and the articles. You know your memory is not 100% accurate. In fact, every time you go over it in your head, it changes a little bit. I get more and more worked up. The memory actually changes inside. And yet I stated absolutely, you did this. Why? Because then she owes me an apology. What do you think her answer was? That's not what happened. Yes, it did. What is the black and white thinking trying to get me? It wants an apology. It wants someone to see my hurt and honor it. How am I trying to do it? Black and white thinking. I am right, you are wrong, you owe me an apology. How much of our life is stated in black and white? How much of the world is talking in black and white right now? Could it be tied to a protector part that's trying to get power for safety, for control? Can you feel that part in you? Try this. Just say, thank you. I know what you're trying to do. But I'm okay. I don't need to state it that way to get the love that I want. I don't need to state it that way to feel safe. Schwartz, when he talked about parts, said this: there are no bad parts. There's just parts that focus on very specific things. If you grew up in a family where only power got you connection, got you repair, got you that stuff, this part is going to be loud and proud in you. If you grew up where safety was an issue, can you throw up the third way that parts use black and white thinking? Oh, yeah. Protector parts focus on how perfect we are. Vince. Anyone do 99% of their task list, but only can think about the one that they didn't do? We can do a million things right. We focus on all the one thing we did wrong. I will be honest with you. This is something you don't have to deal with, but as a public speaker, there's a skill set to what I do here. Jeff's the same way. He's much better than I am, but whatever. When I go home tonight, I will remember none of the things I did right in front of you guys. But the one thing I screwed up, I will talk about it in my head for hours. One thing I did wrong, well, that's not wrong, maybe there's 30, but whatever. You know what I mean. Anyone focus on the one thing negative? Anyone focus when someone around them? Because again, what happens inside, we project to the outside. Someone does something nice for us, but they do one thing wrong. And we don't give them credit for all the things they did right. It's like, no, that was wrong. Don't put up your hand, but anyone have a protector part that is focused on keeping us perfect? It's not doing it just to beat us up, we think. Somehow, perfection is tied to value, tied to being lovable. So that part's basically saying, if you're not perfect, you're not lovable, you're not worthy, you're not going to get what you need. And so it's constantly watching you say, no, right there, fix that. Okay, right there, fix that. You didn't do that one right. Over there, stop that. Because then we might be lovable. We might be taken care of. They might not leave. Can you say to that part, thank you. Thank you for trying to make me perfect. But you know what? I think I'm lovable, even if I make a few mistakes. So I'm okay. Can you feel the shift? No Bad Parts has this way of talking. It says, again, this is all metaphor. So if you're not buying it, totally fine. But it's a way of looking at our lives through this idea of parts. It's externalization. I think in the Christian tradition, we used to use the word possession. Because when I have a part that takes over my life and like runs me into the ground, it feels like possession. I use the word hijack for the series, but possession would be another word. The idea, though, is that you take you, your soul, your true self, the thing that is you, and you make it separate from the part that's talking, the part that wants power, the part that's using black and white thinking, the part that says you can only be this group or that group. You externalize it. So here's what I want you to do today, if you're open to it. If it's too airy-fairy, just take a quick nap. We'll be fine. If you're open to it, close your eyes. And find connection to any black and white part, any part that speaks in that as I've talked through this whole message, you felt. Where do you feel it in and around you? My perfectionist part sits on my right shoulder. He's a little guy, and he whispers in my ear, that tile's crooked. You didn't do that perfect. Where's your part? It works really good if you can even picture that part. I have this part that focuses on me being lazy. It's like an old farmer dude with like a straw sticking out of his mouth. He's got like overalls. He comes in on my left side. When you think about the part that uses black and white thinking, what does the part look like? Does it look like you, like someone else? What shirt are they wearing? Maybe they're not even a human. I've heard people talk about parts as like a blob, a heavy cloud. Okay, picture it. Capture in your mind perfectly, not because it's true, but because for some reason this is how our brains conceptualize these things. Does it have a name? Now here's the thing we want to do. Remember, no bad parts are focused on thanking those parts. Not letting us take control, but thanking them. So in your mind, picture it as fully as you can and say, thank you for trying to protect me. Does the part feel different now? When we fight parts, when we villainize parts, when we try and push them away, tell them to shut the hell up, you tend to get louder. When we embrace the part, something shifts. Could it be that black and white thinking is that protector part's way of protecting you from something you don't need protection from anymore. Okay, open your eyes. I'm going to get the band to come on up. We started today by looking at this issue of abortion. Not that I'm trying to change any of your minds, but it's framed as pro-life, pro-choice. To me, it is unbelievably complex. But as I look at this black and white way of thinking, I see it in the world around me, in the way that the world conceptualizes things. Very complex issues. It's as simple as you just need to black and white. But if I go inside, I realize that's also happening inside of me. I'm perfect or not perfect. But if we see that as the voice of the protector part and we learn to recognize it, we can change how we interact with it. We can find peace from it. We can use it. Sometimes I need to be a perfectionist. It's like I'm half-assing it. And the petard says, hey, Vince. That's when he's talking to my dad. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. Okay, I'll wash my car better. What is it inside of you that black and white thinking points to? And can you externalize it? See it as separate. I was reading a Christian's take on this metaphor of parts. They talked about our true self, the part that sees the parts. That's what I tried to get you to today as you externalize the part. What we're doing is we're connecting you to yourself. One way of talking about that is to say it's my soul. And as I was talking, I realized I think the Christian tradition has been trying to do what parts language is currently doing, what internal family systems is doing now. I think they've been doing it for thousands of years. They just use different language. Now, if you have a spiritualizer part, this might trigger you because we're going to sing a hymn. Just remember in your mind, say, thank you for freaking out. We're okay. There's going to be a lot of language in this hymn that's very, very traditional. But listen to the chorus. It is well with my soul. And feel your connection to your true self. Not the part that's using black and white thinking to power up or to find safety or to just not have to deal with the complexities of the world. None of that. The part that sees it all. Find connection to that as they sing. When the world is trying to hijack you, it is well with my soul. When the part that wants to take over and run into the ground, it is well with my soul. When you want to jump in the middle of a black and white conversation and just drop a hand grenade and make it all gray as hell, it is well with my soul. That's the heart of this series. To find connection with your soul and realize it is well with my soul. That is our prayer for you all. Amen.